to be here tonight, you know, because I love to talk about this kind of stuff, because this is just something that God put in my heart. You know, and you guys will find those things. You know, maybe you have them now, maybe you'll find them later, definitely. But you know, this is a type of ministry that I just love. And Haiti is a place that once you go there and you see it, it just kind of hooks you. You know, the people are amazing. They've been through so much over there, and they have so much need. And you know, it's just so great to go there and to serve them. And of course, you guys know when you give back, how does that feel? It feels what? Amazing, right? That you can really help somebody else. And so I've been doing this particular. I'm a doctor, first of all, here in town. I'm a pediatrician, and I love working in this community. I live a little further north. I live up in Bellingham. But this is my daughter up here, and she's a twin. They're juniors in high school, and she went with me on this last trip. And the first trip that I took to Haiti was back in 2010. And do you guys remember hearing anything about a big earthquake in Haiti? Any of you guys remember that? All right, so that was in January of 2010. When I heard about that earthquake, I was in the Dallas airport, getting ready to fly to Florida to go to a wedding and then leave 3 days later to go to Haiti. And I had all my bags packed, I had all my stuff with me, and we couldn't go because of this devastating earthquake. There were no planes that could get in and out of Haiti. It was just completely a mess. So we actually, if it had been a week earlier, we would have been in Haiti at the time. And it was a really, really scary time over there for them. Over 1 million people got displaced from their house. Over 100,000 people died. And it was really, really, this country, do people know where Haiti is, first of all? Some people may not even know where that country is. It's over, you guys know where Florida is, right? And so off of Florida, down below Florida, is kind of that area where there's a bunch of islands in it. And down there is Cuba, and then close to Cuba is Haiti. And it's really the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So they really have a lot of hardship there. And a lot of those people actually come from Africa, and they were imported as slaves several hundred years ago to work on plantations. So a lot of the population isn't actually the native people there, it's people who were imported and became a part of that community. And they're very, very poor. They live on $1 on average a day per person. You know, so the money that you spend on your lunch is, you know, probably half of what they spend in a week, you know, for themselves. So anyway, we work over there, and I work with an organization called Lifting Up Haiti, and we have 22 incredibly gorgeous little kids that you'll see. And since I couldn't go on that first trip and we had to stop, we went 6 months later and we did some work over there. We did medical work, and our church that I go to is Cornwall Church up in Bellingham, and a very active ministry in Haiti. We went to that orphanage, and then God leads you places if you listen to him. And so he led us to another orphanage that had no help. And these are the kids that we serve now, because our church, you know, already had too much to do. And I want to thank you guys for all that you've done so far to support us. And we're going to show you what we do there, show you a little bit about the country, and then we'll talk about that service project that you did and how you're going to have an incredible impact for the people over there. It's really awesome. So let's go to the next picture. So this is our team that went the end of March, and of course there's yours truly on the end. And I have 4 board members who are on our board, and the woman to the left, the next woman, that's one of the extra people, he's a spouse, and then my daughter, and then Carol Clark, who's a nurse practitioner in Marysville, is the second one over. It's her 2 boys, and Nanis is also on our board. So that was the group of us arriving at the airport in Port-au-Prince. Go on to the next one. Just showing you a couple of pictures of what it's like as you're driving down the street. It's pretty crazy, lots of stuff going on, lots of stuff being sold. Most of the businesses are small. They don't have any Walmarts. They don't have, you know, a Hagen's supermarket. You know, everything they buy is in kind of markets and little stores and little things like that. So it's constantly passing by all kinds of things like this. And there they are again, selling food. They don't have a lot of business in Haiti. It's not a very good economy. 80% of the people are unemployed there. Wow. And you can see all the garbage all along the river there. So, you know, we put stuff in our garbage can and somebody comes and picks it up and takes it away. You know, in Haiti, like I'm driving on the tap-taps or the pickup trucks there, somebody's eating something, they just throw it out of the truck, and first of all, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, you can't throw that out. You know, it's like you need to put it in the trash can. But in Haiti, there's no trash can. Well, if there is, nobody comes to pick up the trash can. So this is the problem. They don't have all the infrastructure that we have here. So that's why people just sort of throw garbage wherever they can. And they're working on it. And in the city of Port-au-Prince, they're actually beginning to develop some of those things. But it's there's a lot of garbage there. And there we are, it's kind of going down the road in the back of the truck. Okay, that's Tony. He's one of the boys at the orphanage. So we have 22 kids. I'll show you the village that they came from in a little bit. But these kids, some of them have parents, some of them have no parents. But all these kids have nothing. They really, when our director, I'll point him out later, saw these kids and God called him to the village where they came from. He said, Jim, he said, honestly, I looked on the ground and there was a pig down there and there was a child down there and I couldn't tell which one was which. It was that dirty and they were that unclothed and that they were that, you know, that just looked that desperate. So he was called to go to this community and work with these people and work with these kids. And for 3 years, they prayed about what can we do. And they go and they bring a little water, you know, they bring clean water, they bring some bread, they bring some stuff to these people. And they didn't have anything else to really bring to them. And so they just would pray with them and bring them what they could, when they could, and just hoping that somebody would come alongside of them. And that's when God brought us together. Okay, and I'll just show you some pictures. This is Rosalind, just another one of the girls at the orphanage, so you can just keep rolling through a few of those. This is Nielsen. This is my daughter's favorite right there. He just turned 10. And that's Colin, who's on our board too. And this little girl is one of the true orphans, and she's one of those, you can just kind of tell. She's got a lot of spunk in her. She's got a lot of spitfire, and she's a lot of fun. And she's one of our true orphans. Her name is Mary Maud. And here are the kids. They're kind of lined up here, having some food. They eat 2 good meals a day. A lot of times in Haiti, you know, they're lucky if they get 1 meal a day, and it might be every other day. So our kids are eating every day, and they're filling their bellies, and they're doing really well. So all of our children have a safe place to live. They go to school. Most of them have never been to school. I mean, you guys, how many of you guys complain, oh, I got to go to school today? Can you imagine if you had no school, and you never had an opportunity to go to school? You know, I complained about it too. We all do. But you know what? These guys never had an opportunity to go to school, and now they're getting an education. That's a really, really huge thing for them. So they got a safe place to live, they've got meals, they've got an education, they've got clothes and shoes. We brought them a whole bunch of new shoes and clothes on this last trip. Foursquare Church gave us a ton of clothes, and the kids were just pumped up when we got over there. So anyway, that's a picture of them eating. This is, what do you guys think that is? What is that?
A house.
Yeah, it's a big wall and there's a tarp. That's the kitchen. Okay, that's the kitchen. So you see there's wood over there in the back, and then they cook over wood, and sometimes they cook over propane when they can get it. But sometimes they have propane and sometimes they don't. So they're back there, the house mother's in the back, and we have 2 house mothers that work with the kids. Because when you have 22 kids, you can imagine that's a lot of food to cook. That's a lot of water to get. That's a lot of clothes to wash. So they're busy. They're really, really busy helping. And that's our dog, Bobby. And that's the orphanage right now. Now our kids, we are raising money in addition to what you guys are helping us with, we're praying like every day about getting money for these kids so that they have a permanent home. Right now we rent that house. It's 2 rooms with a porch in the front, and that's where we live. And they've lived in 3 different houses in 2 years. And so we're just really praying, and we just really believe God will provide that. And so if we can get the money for the property, which I'll show you a picture of, then we're going to start raising money so we can actually build a permanent place so those kids can live in one place. Because in 2 years now, we've had to live in 3 different places, and that's not a good situation for the children. They're creative. This is our property, so it's actually a pretty big piece of property. They've got a little store back here where they sell handicraft stuff to other mission groups that come through. And in the back corner there, the last house we were at, we built a big kitchen shelter, like a lean-to roof. Well, they took that off of the old place, brought it over here, put it in the corner, and then they took a bunch of political signs that they had, and they pasted them all together on the sides of that. It says something like, elect Jean Jacques, something like that on there. So they just took whatever materials they could, and they actually built another room in the back there. They love the sunglasses, so they'll love to grab your sunglasses over there. And whenever you're walking around too, they always follow you around, the kids do, and they say, poke them, poke them, poke them, which means carry me, carry me. So they love it, when you hold them and you hug them and you play with them. So that's just another portion of the property. Oh, so, no, go back, I'm sorry. It kind of zoomed in more than I thought. So actually, this is a house in the village where you guys start to come in now. Okay, so we have the kids. They came from this village I told you about. They live in the orphanage. About probably 2 miles away from where the house is this village called Mahout. And this is a very, very poor village, even by Haitian standards. So, all right, so we've already got a really poor country, and now the people that live in that country say this is even poorer. So it's a pretty desperate place. These people that live there, and we're not even still sure how many people live there. We're getting to know the village better. We're getting to understand their story better. We went and we had a meeting kind of back there. It's not easy to see, but they kind of set up a meeting. We just sat and we listened on this trip. What is your story? Where did you come from? They came from the mountains. They came down here. They don't own this land. They lease the land. They don't even know how long they're going to get to stay there. So when they build a house, it's just temporary. In a couple more years, they might be gone. They have one well, and they're worried that the owner is going to fence the well off and they won't have any water. So they've got a lot of stress on them. They don't have a lot of resources. They don't have jobs. They try to raise bananas, maybe raise some goats, maybe some chickens, and really have it, it's really hard because they don't feel like they have a future. First time I went to this village, I met a man, and he was really, really thin. And I was talking to him, and we prayed together, and he looked at me and he said, I'm fasting. I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, why are you fasting? He said, well, I'm just fasting and praying that God will help me out of my situation. Well, the situation was that he wasn't really fasting. He was starving. And he wasn't fasting because he wanted to. He was fasting because he had no food. But he chose to think of it in those terms. I saw him. He looked better the last time I saw him. So his prayers, at least in some part, were answered. And as we talk to this community, we're trying to figure out more and more ways that we can help these people there because they really feel like they have no hope. This is a house, believe it or not, and you can see it's just made out of sticks. You can see where it's exposed over there, and then they just take mud and kind of cake it on there. And you can look at the next picture. That's the side of the house, and that's their little kitchen. And basically, it's probably about 6 feet by 6 feet, and about 6 people live in that house. So these are the types of people that you guys are going to bless with the money that you raised for those goats. Because when we met with those people on this last trip, we asked them, we said, what do you need the most? What can we do to help you the most? They said, well, if you can come back and help us build latrines sometime, that would be really good, so that they would have an outhouse, so they could actually have a place to use the bathroom properly. And they said, can you do microloans for us? And one of the things they want is goats. So the money that you guys raised is going to go to this community, and we're going to give them goats, and we're going to talk more about those goats in a little bit. All right, and there's my favorite guy. I hate to have favorites, but I do. We all have our favorites. We won't admit it in front of them. But this little guy on the left is my buddy Weedlet, and he's one of the boys from the orphanage. And we have a lot of pressures in the community about jealousies and people who want things and need things, and they don't understand, and they don't understand the value of education. So we have constantly balancing out, helping these kids, trying to deal with their parents, trying to help them understand why it's important to have them at the orphanage. They want to come and just visit whenever they want. They want to use the orphanage as just sort of like a hotel motel. So actually, when I saw Weedlet last, he wasn't at the orphanage. He was back in the village. And he really needed to be there because he's skinny as can be. And when I saw him, I was so happy because he just ran up to me. It was like a little treasure hunt for the few kids that had gone back to the community. We found them all, we saw them, we saw they were all healthy, and we just really praising God, you know, that he was taking care of them. But Weedlet's come back to the orphanage again, and he's back living there. Kind of a dark picture, but this is where they go to get their water. You know, you guys turn on a tap over there. If they want water, you see everybody with their 5-gallon buckets. That's the universal thing in the third world, is you go down and you go to the well and you wait your turn and you fill up your bucket, and then you carry that 5 gallons of water back, which is pretty heavy. You guys should do that sometime. You should have a little race, put a 5-gallon bucket of water on your head, and try to walk 1.5 miles, which is the average that a person has to walk to get water in the third world. And that would maybe come back and eat some rice and beans or something.
That's right.
And be a good wake-up call of what that's like. And make that your one meal for the day.
We had him do about 1/8 of a mile with 2 gallons this past weekend.
Okay, all right. You're baby stepping up.
Baby stepping. We can do the 5 gallons with 1.5 miles. That's
yeah. Well, they put it on their head. Yeah. You know, that's why they put it up here. And they have really strong heads and necks. Okay, so next. Okay, that's our director standing right there. His name is Beto, and he is a guy that's he's my brother. You know, he's one of my best friends, and he is an amazing guy, and he grew up with nothing. He grew up with a mom who really didn't have anything to support him with, and when he was about 12, he basically was on his own, and then he had to go live, you know, with a mission group. And this woman named Betty Snyder kind of helped raise him. And he's this incredibly godly man. And he's a really, really honest man. And he loves those children. He has 2 of his own. He's married. And he's really devoting his life. You know, I do this as a part-time thing. You know, he is living it every day. You know, when these kids are sick and they're sweating and they're crying and they're cold, he's there, you know, hugging them and holding them in the middle of the night. And he you know, for the first year, I tried to give him money to help these kids, and just to try to have some money for him to support himself on. He wouldn't take any money. He gave it all to the kids. He's a really, really amazing guy. All right, so these guys are just getting kind of goofy. Nobody liked the long sleeves. They had to kind of cut off the sleeves, kind of be the guy, right? So they cut their sleeves off, and so they're kind of wearing them on their heads. And that's Aaron's, and that's one of my daughter Kate's best friends too. They're copping a little attitude there. Yeah, boys being boys. It's pretty universal. It was funny. One time we took them to the beach, and they all went swimming in the water, and every one of the boys is throwing rocks. And none of the girls is throwing rocks. I'm like, that's just got to be a guy thing, you know? it can be beautiful. You know, there you go. This is Laganao, which is the big island across from the mainland. We took a boat over there. Ito's mom actually lives over here. And I've never done this. Been over there on 5 trips now. I've never done it, but we did take an afternoon break, and we went over here, and we went snorkeling. We had a lot of fun. And we took our Haitian buddies with us, and they don't swim that much, so we had life jackets on them, and they were, you know, putting the snorkel on, and we had a lot of fun. There was some coral over here and some nice fish, so we did do that one afternoon. That's Randy, and we painted a church, so we'll keep going here. This church is further north. This is actually part of our Cornwall church mission. We went up and helped them for a day. You can go further. This is a school, excuse me, not a church. So it's a school, and it's a brand new school, and the next week they were going to dedicate that on national TV. And it's a brand new school for 300 kids, and the next picture is a village that, guess familiar with YWAM? Yeah, Youth with a Mission. They built this community in 4 months, and there were 100 families displaced by the earthquake in Port-au-Prince, living north. So it's like 2 hours north of Port-au-Prince where the earthquake was. And they lived for 2 years in tents, and now they have their own houses. So these are the houses that they're living in, and that was the school that those kids are going to be going to. And I can tell you they're absolutely pumped up about that. So that was really fun to be a part of that. So we just took a day and did that. There's our board, and that's our property. Looks like we got a lot of work to do. There's a few rocks on that piece of property. But you know, it's amazing. They just know what to do, you know, and that's just kind of part of life for them. Life is just not easy. But, you know, I saw land just like this, even rockier down below there, and they're growing corn in that, and they're growing, you know, watermelons in that. So if you grow the right stuff, you can grow it. You're probably not going to grow luscious tomatoes and peppers, but you can grow stuff there. And we have 3 acres of land that we're trying to buy up here. And those goats, getting back to those goats that you guys are raising the money for, what we're going to do is we're going to do a microloan program with them where we're going to give a family a goat, and they're going to have the goat. And most goats twin. Sometimes they have triplets. And so it's very common for them to have 2. And what we're going to ask them to do under contract is when they have a baby goat, then we give the baby goat back to us. And then we're going to take that goat, we're going to give it to another family. So now, you guys gave us 8 goats for 8 families. Now, all of a sudden, we've got 16 families having goats. And so this is the kind of program that really multiplies. And this is the kind of work that we really want to do. We're not about short-term relief. We're about trying to give them a hand up and a hand out of their situation. So I'm really thankful that you guys are devoting your money and you really wanted to put it to that type of project. Because we're stepping out of our orphanage. We want to build an orphanage here. We want to build a school here that ministers to this community, which is actually down below there. You can look in the background behind our heads, and that's where the village is that those kids are from. We can walk down there in about probably 10 to 15 minutes. And our vision, and God will, you know, He'll tool it for us, but our vision is to not have a school just for the kids, but it's a school that ultimately can educate a lot of those kids in that community. And so the fact that we can start ministering in that community and offering them something builds relationships with them. And that's how you get work done. You know, you build relationships with people. And that's what going back and forth is so important for this type of work in the long run. Okay, there's Kate's 3 favorites, and that's back at the orphanage again. These are medical supplies. So I'm a doctor, so you're probably wondering, what is he going to talk about medical stuff? You know, he's a doctor. What's he doing on some goat stuff? But so I do some medical work over there too. But you know what? For me, like I do doctoring every day. So if I can go over there and do other stuff, it's kind of a break. You know, it's like a person who is a professional chef. They don't want to come up and cook. You know. So I do bring medicines, and so these are all containers of medicines, and so we run a program over there where I educate our staff and actually teach them medical stuff so that they can take care and diagnose most of the problems, because it's really expensive for them to take somebody to the doctor. If it's even $5, to go to the doctor and $5 more for medicine, which would be, hey, we would say, hey, that's really a bargain, If I did set up a little shop like that, down the street here, and I offered that kind of service, I'd have, probably a line a mile long. People would be like, hey, that's great, But over there, that's a lot of money to them. So if we can find ways for them to provide their own service and educate them to do their own work and make them independent, that's what we try to do. So I do bring meds, but I try to teach them diagnostic skills too. So those are all filled with different medications for different conditions, and we have protocols that they follow if the kids get sick. Anybody know what kind of illnesses they get in Haiti?
Malaria?
Yep, they get malaria. That's a very, very common one. Anybody else hear any other stuff over there?
Dysentery?
Dysentery. Cholera was a big thing over there. When they don't have clean water, particularly after the earthquake, and that causes diarrhea to the point where people get dehydrated and literally they can die in 24 hours. They have typhoid fever too, which is again another kind of waterborne illness where you can get really bad fevers and you get extremely sick. So they did some pretty nasty things. You have to be careful.
Do they get heat stroke and heat exhaustion?
Yeah, particularly for us though. When we go there, we don't drink our fluids. I'm always talking to my mission dealer. I'm like, drink your water. You need to drink like a gallon of water a day. It's like, we're not used to it in the Northwest, It's like, and when I was in clinic there, the first time I went, I put a thermometer up and I looked at it in the afternoon. It said 116 degrees. And it was like 95% humidity. So if you're not drinking, you're dying, over there. So yeah, you have to be really careful. And I don't know how those Haitians do it because they don't have that much access to clean water. Somehow they seem to make it, and they find shade whenever they can. There's Bito. We brought Bibles this last time. We didn't bring them. We just sent them in. These are Creole Bibles. They speak Creole there, which is kind of a combination of French and Afrikanese, and that's the language. The official language is French, but most people speak Creole. So those are Creole Bibles. And again, when we bring stuff, when you do work in the third world, it feels good to us if we can go there and we can just start handing stuff out to people. That feels pretty good, for a second, right? It's like, here, give you something that you don't have. And they're thankful, and they're looking you in the eye, and and you go, wow, that felt really good to me. But, it's really not mostly about that for us, because we want to play a secondary role. We want to be in the background. So we want Bito, who's there all the time, to have the relationship with the people. We want them to know we care about them. We want them to know that we're praying for them, that we're going home to try to support them. But we want Bito to do the work, so we try as much as possible. Everything that we give goes through Bito. Everything that we do, everything we say, if we think it could have any kind of impact, we put it through Bito. We call it the Bito filter. And if it doesn't go through the Bito filter and it gets rejected, then we just say, we're not supposed to do that. Because we have a way of doing things in our culture here that we think is the right way. But that's not the way it is around the world. So you have to be really careful about what you say and what you do. And everything you say, they're listening to it. And if you promise them something, or you even say you might do something, they already think you are going to do that. So you have to be really careful over there. It's very easy to screw up, to do the wrong thing. So I'm always learning. He's my teacher, and I get my Cultural 101 lesson from Bito. All right, and so there we are, just eating. Some of these pictures are a little out of order, I'm sorry, but there's Reginald, and Mary Maud was the other little true orphan girl. That's her brother. And he's just a really, really sweet boy. He's one of my favorites. He always opens the gate when we go in and out. I always say, good boy, Reggie. We had an Easter egg hunt for them. We had a Girl Scout group that took their cookie money and they bought Easter eggs and they kind of stocked them all with stuff in them. And we brought them over and they had no clue what they were supposed to do. But we told them about it, and you know, it's amazing when kids are kids, you know, it's like, you know, go find something. It's pretty universal. They don't need too much instruction for that. So they were running around finding all these eggs, and they were absolute right, and they were so excited to have these little colored Easter eggs, and they were running back with them, and they didn't even know there was anything in them. And then we opened them up, they were like, woo, you know, candy, little toys. So they had a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun helping them with that. Now there's Reginald opening up his stuff. And we did a piñata. We did a vacation Bible school that week with them too. It was Easter week, so it's Holy Week. So we were talking a lot about, you know, the whole, you know, Easter journey. And this was just a fun thing that we did. So we did a little piñata with them. And there's a bunch of us after the festivities that day. They do devotions twice a day, and in the evening they do it longer. And I've stayed at the orphanage. We didn't stay that particular trip overnight because they're in a really small facility now, and they don't really have even a space for us to sleep on a porch or anything. But we did stay late into the evening. It was starting to get sort of towards dark. And Kenderson, who's in the middle there, he wants to be a pastor. And he was the one that lived in that little mud house that I was showing you with the sticks all exposed on it. He has like 5 brothers and sisters. And he lives at the orphanage. And he got up and he was just praising God. He was singing and just praying. And if I had the video, which I don't have it today, you'd see him just doing this thing. And it's no wonder after I kind of read little stuff about, you know, we kind of took little bits and pieces about, you know, how many brothers did they have and what do they want to do. And Kenderson wrote down, I want to be a pastor. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So I think we got a couple more pictures of him just kind of doing his thing. And he's just clapping and praising God and dancing around. And then we had prayer time, and he just got down on his knees. He just, it doesn't get any more, you know, get any more supplication than that right there. He is praying right there. And I'm just like, man, I wish sometimes that I could pray like that, you know, that he was, I didn't know what he was saying, but I knew it was important. And they were all praying. That's the last photo, and there's Colin just kind of looking out. That was after devotions that night. That was our last day there. And, you know, it's a beautiful sunset. There was a big golden moon that came up, and it was a great way for us to cap off an amazing week. And then I think we have our goat picture next.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's not the goat picture. I have a goatee there, which I sported for a short period of time, but my wife told me to get rid of it, so.
Why don't you start some Q&A while we...
Okay, so yeah, so I was just going to put up a picture of some goats. So I want you guys to ask any questions that you might have about what we do, or the people in Haiti, or a little bit more about this project. Yes?
Where do you guys get the money for the plane tickets? Because plane tickets are...
What's that?
How do you get money for plane tickets?
For plane tickets?
Church raise that, or what?
Well, we all raise our own money. So we have a nonprofit called Lifting Up Haiti. So every dollar that we raise goes to our children. So personally, anybody that goes on the trip has to provide their own funds. So when we have fundraisers and people donate to us, you know, and help our work, we don't take any of that money for ourselves to travel over there. So we have to just raise our own money. And, you know, some people have it through their own jobs and work. Other people do fundraisers, you know, to kind of raise the money to go over there. Sir?
Did anyone like join you guys going down there?
there's another team actually from Cornwall Church where we go to church that was there at the exact same time, and it was pretty cool because there were 3 Haitian guys who were in high school up in Ferndale, and they were adopted from Haiti when they were younger. 2 of them when they were 13, but these guys were all 18. And then one guy was adopted when he was 5, and he hadn't been back to Haiti since he was adopted at age 5. And so the whole group of high schoolers and some of the youth pastors went back with them, and they spent their whole week reuniting with family. And one of the boys got baptized in the ocean too, which is really a cool thing. I'm emotional enough about people when they get baptized, but in that setting, in that kind of environment, it was a really cool thing. Yes? In what? Yes. So I don't speak a lot of their language, but like Creole would be, if you want to say how are you, you would say comment vous êtes? Comment vous êtes? And then if you know French, like bien means good, that would be how you would respond. Yeah. Bonsoir means good afternoon. So I'm trying to learn, and I'm so busy that like when I get over there, I like know little things that I can say. I can count to 10, things like that. So I'm trying to learn, because it's really good to learn the language when you go to a country. And they really appreciate it. It brings you closer to the people. So you ask me again in 20 years and I'll get this talking Creole.
Do a lot of the people there speak English, or
Not a lot. Some speak English. Like our director speaks English really well, and that's how he makes a good living. So that's actually, remember when I told you that we try to offer him money to live off of? And we try to pay him $75 a month to live for his entire family. He wouldn't take it, but he does get some extra money because he does interpreting for people. But most of the people don't speak English. They speak some French. They speak maybe a little bit of English, but probably 80–90% of the people just speak Creole. So that's why we always have translators with us, and that's how we communicate. And we try to speak when we can. The kids just talk to you all the time in Creole, like they expect you to understand what they're saying. And I just talk back to them in English, you know. So I'm like, hey, you know, I too could play that game, but you know, they get the tone of what you're saying, and they just want to talk to you, and they don't care because they're kids. They're going to talk, you know, and they just expect that you're going to understand them. When we left, my daughter was holding her favorite guy, Nielsen. I showed you a picture of him, and he kept saying something over and over to her in Creole, and Kate was like, no, I need to understand what he's saying, because it's like, you know, it's time to go, and he kept saying the same thing over and over. So I said, oh, you know, Manus, come over here, and I'm trying to interpret for Kate. And so Nielsen said again what he had said to her, and Manus looked at her and said, I'm going with you. So anyway, but we'll go back and see them again. And so yeah, it's pretty cute. They're great kids, and you know, that what makes it so wonderful is to just go and see their smiling faces, and to hold them, to hug them, and you know. And for me, when I go back now, I know them, of course, too. So that makes it even better for me to be able to go. But you know, when we go, it's really to show, you know, first to show commitment to be in there and helping these people, because they have so little. The first time we went, the very first thing when we met with the whole group that helps those kids, the very first question they asked us was, so how long are you here for? Because most people come, and they come once and they're gone, and they see a lot of people do that. And so they wanted to know, you know, like, are you guys in? You know, are you going to put some skin in the game? And so for me, I've got skin in the game, and I plan to be there for a long time. It's hard for me because I love to travel all kinds of places. I've traveled all around the world. I've probably been to 30 different countries. I love to travel. It's like, you guys all go if you can. It's so much fun. But now it's hard because I got to stay in one place. Yeah.
Dr. Troutman, I think I messed up because I told the kids the money was going towards a chicken coop.
Okay.
With chickens.
Okay, so let me
But
explain that.
we're going to have a surplus too. So our main concern is that the money goes to whatever's needed for the kids.
Yeah, so let's go over that. So yeah, they're thinking, goats. What about the chickens? Okay, so we do want to have chickens at our orphanage. And I talked again, you know the Beto filter I told you about? So I talked to Beto, and I can call him on my phone. I could call him right now, though he'd be asleep, and he wouldn't appreciate that. So that's really cool. But I talk to him a couple of times a month. And so I told him the last time, now 2 or 3 conversations ago, I said, okay, these guys are almost done raising money for, the chickens. I said, are you cool with that? Do you want the chickens? He said, now not really a good time for chickens. He said, because we live in this place and we only rent this place, and they have to be careful too that when they have things, it attracts attention and jealousy where they are. So he knows things like that. So he said, better we don't have the chickens now when we have our own land and we're in a separate place. Then it's going to be a good time for chickens. And I said, these guys said money for animals. So we've got to really honor that. So would you like some other kind of animals, or do you want to do something else, with animals? And he said, I want to give goats to the community. And that's the kind of guy that he is. He didn't care that it came to him and to his kids. He wanted that to go to the community. And he cares about that community, and he loves that community, and he knows, that we're all trying our best to reach out to that community and to show God's love to them. So that's how come you're doing goats.
How much does one goat cost, John?
A goat was costing $50 a piece. A goat is costing now $60 a piece. So last year it was $50. Now it's 60, which is probably about right because inflation over there is like 20% a year. It's really high.
Well, we're going to get your money to you, a check to you, within 2 weeks. I can tell you that. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Come on, man.
Yes. And it's going to be more than 10 goats, I can tell you that.
All right, well, you know what? We will distribute as many goats as you guys make available to us. And next time I go over there, I'll have pictures of all the goats too, and then you can kind of really see who they were, and maybe we'll even have names too. And we're hoping to set it up too, so not only do they give one goat back to spread that in the village, but we're trying to set it up so that everybody actually ends up ultimately getting 2 goats back.
That's cool.
So that the second goat will come back to their orphanage, and then we can have a large herd of goats up at the orphanage. So it's going to be a multiplier effect over there.
There's your micro here.
Oh yeah, there's my goat. There's our goats. So that's what the goats look like. I don't know. Anybody have any goats at their house? You guys have goats? I love goats. I never had one, but I just think they're cool. You do? Yeah, they're very good to have over there because they eat anything, right, you guys? There's not that much to eat, so they'll eat what nobody else wants.
Well, you guys, let's hear it for Dr. Troutman.
I have some brochures that I'm going to leave. Perfect. And I have some cards too, so if everybody doesn't get a brochure, I don't have that many with me. But if you guys are interested in what we're doing and you want to learn more about it, or you just want to go look at it, this has our website on it. You can go and see, or if you have anybody that would like to donate and help, or you go, I can't do that, but gosh, I know somebody else who would really be into that and might be able to help. That would be great. Or if you just want to be our friend, we're on Facebook too, so friend us as well.
So
and
can I ask
check
one
out
question?
what we're up to.
I have to ask this one. What will it take to get you on that piece of property that you showed us?
That piece of property, we need to raise $18,000. And we have raised so far $6,000, and we're having a big yard sale next weekend, and we hope that we're going to get an extra $3,000 from that. So we're hoping to be halfway there, and then we're just waiting for God to provide the rest. We have to raise the money by the end of October because we have a contract. We're having a dinner auction the end of September. So, you know, it's just one of those things that I stress out about it a little bit every now and then God just says, chill out, Jim. Chill out. I got it. I got
Where's
this
the yard
covered,
sales?
you know? It's all good. I've got a good friend of mine up in Linden, up near the Canadian border. He's been doing this work in Haiti for 23 years. And he said, Jim, I just can't tell you the number of times that God has blessed us. And he goes, people just come. He said, one time I looked in the bank account, I needed $30,000. He has $30,000 a month budget. He has like so many kids, and he has like 300 schools over there that he works with. He was looking at his bank account, and he goes, it's like 5 days before he's supposed to send this check off, you know, and he had like $5,000 in there. And he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do, you know, and he just prayed to God, you know, God, you've honored this ministry, you've showed me this ministry is important all these years. And later that day, his daughter came to visit from Portland and handed him an envelope and just said, oh, somebody asked me to give this to you. And he just stuck it in his pocket and think about it, opened it up later in the day. It was a check for $20,000. Somebody he didn't even know. So, anyway, God will be good. God will provide.
Dr. Troutman, why don't you give those to Jennifer right here?
Okay.
And we'll hand those out. Dave, if you want to get
Where's the yard
and
sale?
stuff.
What's that?
Where's the yard
So
sale?
this is